Hello, my name is Morris Silverstein, stepbrother of Thomas Silverstein. Rest in peace, Tom. It's true, my brother chose a life of crime. Um, Personal experience into the home, growing up, it was, for all the kids, terrifying at times. Um, Myself, I tended to avoid conflict. I'd go outside, hang out with the animals while all the argument was going on and punishments and everything. Although I did receive some of those punishments just as well. Um, there's one thing, very important thing they left out in no human contact. Um, well, one, my mother did not ask for reward money. How do I know? I was there, as well as my sister and my father. The other thing is the reason they originally put him into solitary confinement is the Aryan Brotherhood was getting too big in prison. They had too much control in the state system. The BOP checked with attorneys and everything, and they wanted to get information from the AB leaders, him being one of them. So they found the legally minimal requirement for inmates to put them in solitary confinement and put them first into the federal system. They pulled the leaders from the Aryan Brotherhood and isolated them into the federal system. That backfired. Now they had access to the state as well as the federal prison system as far as messaging, carrying out orders, and such. BOP was not happy with that. Made them look bad. Of course, then again, you got bureaucrats not thinking like, face it, like criminals. Think about it. If you read the hothouse of some of these inmates, the things they came up with to get by in prison and to escape and such, they're very intelligent people. Unfortunately, they used it on for wrong instead of for good. Imagine those individuals if their life did a 180, what they could accomplish in life, including my brother. So what they did, they threw the leaders into solitary confinement of the Aryan Brotherhood, including my brother. Within 2 to 3 years, the other ones folded. They said they couldn't take it no more. So they divulged some information and were put in protective custody. However, my brother didn't budge, which they leaned on him even more, doing psychological warfare on him, um, just putting bad situations upon him. So he had two choices: one, fold, or stand tall. Was he a career criminal? Yes, he was. Was he violent at times? Yes, he was. But I, as well as other people, seen another side of my brother as well. In our neighborhood, growing up in Long Beach, he was kind of the equalizer, so to speak. If there was a fight breaking out and 2 to 3 guys or 4 guys were jumping one guy, he would jump in, not knowing who's or what's going on, and he would fight these guys off. He was good with his fists, and he'd say, "Let's get down to the facts. Who's the beef against? Well, this guy and this guy. Then let this guy and this guy duke it out. If he wins, he wins. If he loses, well, back then you got some respect for at least standing up for yourself." And he warned the other guys, "You start jumping back in again, you're going to deal with me." So in his mind, That was his sense of justice, fairness. My first fight, I came home crying. Kid around the corner pumped on me a little bit, being a bully. Never been in a fight in my life. And as a young kid, I feared a lot of things, because I saw a lot of things. And came up to my brother, looked distraught, and he could see my face was a little bit red from getting hit. He said, "What happened, little bro?" I said, "So and so hit me." "Why? What'd you do?" "Nothing. He was just being a bully." "Bully? Let's go talk to him." So I'm thinking, my brother's 9 years older, or was 9 years older than I. So we go walking around the corner, my chest all puffed out, and I got my big bro with me. He called out the kid, and he goes, "Hey, did you hit my brother?" Kid stood there, he knew who my brother was. A lot of people in the neighborhood who knew my brother was. Um, he said, "I asked you a question. Did you hit my brother?" He goes, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Why?" Typical kid response, "I don't know." He looked down at me and goes, "Go beat him up." Never been in a fight in my life. I was still scared. Um, I can't do it. I go, "Tom, I'm scared." Kind of whispering to him. So he gets down on his knees, gets eye level with me. He says, "I said go beat him up," and gives me a little shove. I said, "No, Tom, I don't want to fight him. I'd rather just not fight at all. That's my nature." He gave me another little shove, and another, a little light smack on the face. A couple more smacks. And he goes, "What's the matter? You a little scared, little baby?" He kept giving me little light slaps and such, little shoves and light punches. But I started getting angry. Finally, I'm like, "Knock it off." And I tried to shove him back, and he started smiling. He knew what he was doing, getting me mad. And he goes, "Use it on him." I still didn't want to fight. And he grabbed me by the shirt and said, "You either fight him or I'm going to fight you." Well, kind of had my eyes half open, half closed, and pinwheeling my arms and running in there yelling. And I think the other kid kind of just let me pop him a few times due to my brother being there. But he fell to the ground. I got on him, thumped him a few more times, and I got off. My brother goes, "Finish it." I said, "No, you learned his lesson. We're done." Never messed with me after that. We'd acknowledge each other, ride our old bicycles around the neighborhood, and do the typical guy. That was it. Were we friends? No. We talked occasionally after that, but that was it. He never messed with me again. I never messed with him. To this day, I don't like violence. Why? Um, my father, Sid Silverstein, was a man blessed with lots of patience, and he wasn't a quick person to react. He would think things out before he reacted. I got a lot of that in me from my father. He's bad. However, I do have the other side of the family, the Price side of the family, my mom's side. And twice in my life, I experienced that rage, that hatred, that anger, that strength, that violence. And it's not pretty. Through the years of my life, I've learned to blow off the steam and not get that way. I choose not to use that violence because once I get into that zone, and I've only really done it twice in my life, it takes me a long time to calm down. I shaking like a leaf, which makes people think I'm scared. That's called adrenaline, you know. But enough about me. That's how it was growing up in school. Beatings, I've received them. My sister received them as well, even from one family member, my aunt. Really never liked that aunt. I don't want to mention her name. Let her rest. But she tended to wanted to do stuff like that just out of for her satisfaction, even if we didn't do anything wrong. Of course, my mom would find out and go thump on her sister, my aunt. mom showed up one time at school. I was in fourth grade, and whooped me in front of the whole class. Was I acting up in class? Yeah. Teacher warned me, so I said I better lay low. So I calmed down, got back to my studies and everything, and I guess the teacher called the office. The office called my mom. About an hour later, my mom showed up, just walked right into class. The teacher was giving teaching something, and the teacher had like a little look on her face. And I turned to look, and there was my mom. My mom was scanning the classroom. Her eyes met. She just kind of looked at me, went, walked up in front of the class, grabbed a chair, said to the teacher, "Excuse me." Looked at me. We didn't even speak. It was like this, I guess like a Vulcan mind melt, speaking without speaking, mental, kind of like mentally. She's like, "Come here." I'm like, "Mom, no. Kill me at home, torture me, starve me for a week, but please not in front of the whole class." Well, needless to say, I walked up to my mom, asked me what I did, and explained to me why I was going to get a whooping. Proceeded to have me lay across her lap, took off the infamous leather sandal, and lit my ass up. Not one kid in that class snickered or smiled. They were just like, "Bro, you okay?" Even after that happened, about 15 minutes later, it was recess time. I was walking out the door to go in the playground. Teacher kind of put her hand on my shoulder, goes, "Morris?" I'm like, "Oh, great, now what?" And I looked up at her, and she just looked so, with empathy in her face. She goes, "I'm so very sorry." Of course, nowadays, if something like that would have happened, oh God, it would probably have been on the national news. My mom probably would have been arrested for something like that. Mom's was a bit of an outlaw herself, with her first husband and such. My father, when he came into the scene, he had to deal with that guy. I never liked that guy, my brother's real father. He was always trying to get me to do things, and I just had that vibe about him. I never really liked the guy. I was the only adult. I said, "Knock it off, shut up, leave me alone." Yeah. And as a kid back in those days, 60s, you didn't say that to an adult. One guy on the internet stated that my father was a weak man. I'm like, that set me off. So I commented to him and stated, my father could have left that relationship anytime he wanted to. He always had a job no matter what, even between layoffs, picked up something to put food on that table, clothes on our back, and have the same roof over our heads. He was there 24/7. Was he stern at times? Of course, he was a father. He could have said, "This is too much for me. Either grab this, my sister and I, and left, or just took off on his own." But he didn't. He stayed to the very end. He watched this crap my brother went through, all the expenses, attorney fees, bail, my brother jumping bail, my own teenage and young and dumb years in my 20s, drinking, drugs, and such. My sister running away, but he kept his cool about it. He was a stern man, but he was a fair man, and he had a unique way of, especially with me, teaching me things. And I thank him for those. Matter of fact, is when he had pancreatic cancer, when it was his last few months of living, I went down to Southern California to visit my dad. And, he just kind of had this faraway look. I didn't know if it was the pain medication, the pancreatic cancer, him processing, his demise or something. And he looked at his wife. He remarried after my mom passed away 8, 9 years after. Um, could you go to the store and get me such and such? And she goes, you got some in the fridge. She goes, how I really hate to run out of that item. And he gave her that the look. So she kind of looked over at me, and he was just saying, I need to speak with my son. He wanted to put his cards on the table, and which I had to do as well. We had to bring closure to all the crap. See, once my mom passed away, it was, we're men, we don't show emotions, and him and I grew apart. Then I got more and more into drugs and alcohol, and I'd be missing in action for 2 to 3 years at times, and I was just had to go through a lot of life lessons. And he looked over at me and he goes, "Can I ask you a question, son?" That's just after she left. I go, "Yeah, Dad, what's going on?" He goes, "You were homeless before, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah, 2, 3 times, yeah." He goes, "How was that?" I said, "It sucked." He goes, "What did you like about it?" I said, "Well, wondering where I'm going to sleep. Am I going to be warm? Am I going to be dry? When am I going to be able to eat? When am I going to be able to get a change of clothes or wash my only clothes I had on my back? Um, my next meal, my next shower, And I told him some stories and such. And he goes, okay. And he had a little bit of remorse. He said, if only I got you into some type of a rehab or recovery at a younger age, or sent you off to some type of camp, And I said, well, Dad, I he forgot, I guess. He offered that once to me, but I didn't think I had a problem back then. Denial. And I said, so he had a little bit of regrets just doing the what ifs. Yeah, he goes, I'm sorry that you had to go through all that. I let him finish and get it off his chest and everything. I just have to look at him and smiled. And he goes, what do you find humorous about all this? I said, nothing, Dad, nothing at all. Him and I needed this talk, the real talk, and as two men, not as father and son. And I said, well, Dad, I had to go through what I had to go through. I had to be basically sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I had to finally give in and decide. I was my own main problem, and I had a long journey and some stumbles, but to get my life back on track. And I thanked him after that. I said, well, Dad, as far as I'm concerned, we had always had food in the house. I know money was tight at times, beans and ham hocks. As a kid, I thought that was a treat. That meant money was tight. We always had the same roof over our head. We always had electricity and everything. We were a lot better off than other people when hard times would come around for other people. Mainly due to my father's strong will and determination to provide for his family no matter what. And I said, Dad, you did those things. Thank you. On top of that, you put up with Tom, you put up with Mom, you put up with some of Mom's family, myself, Sis. So, no, Dad, you did your job. Thank you. And we stood up, gave a big hug, and the tears come out, and we bawled our eyes out a little bit, but it was a good feeling to bring closure to that, Unfortunately, my brother Tom never had that chance to do that with my dad. Even though he was a stepdad, he was more a father than his own father. We've had some pretty in-depth conversations about life and God and life and life's terms, my brother and I, throughout the years. Now, for a long time, I hardly spoke to him. Life happens. And the other part was he wasn't getting any letters from me, so I thought he wasn't answering or wanted to write me back. That wasn't so. That was the guards or the BOP blocking all contact for years. He didn't fill out a clearance. I do have somewhat of a security clearance being a truck driver, and so I had to fill out another one, background check study and all that on me in order to go visit him, especially when I moved to Colorado. That's when he was at Florence ADX. Never got a response from the prison, which caused a problem because he thought maybe I didn't want to see him. He was finally able to see him in his last days when he was very ill. He had a bad heart valve, and they opened him up and they put one in there for him and everything. But suddenly he picked up a viral bacterial infection. My honest opinion, they retired him. They had more celebrities, newer celebrities. On face it, celebrities in Hollywood and such, in the music world, they fade. You know, like the Neil Young song, "It's Better to Burn Out and Fade Away." They had a newer, worldwide more famous one there. Not the terrorist, but El Chapo. Yeah, and it was time to retire my brother, and he served his purpose. It was good to see him after all those years. The first 2 days he was like in a semi-coma. The third day, I come walking in a room and he's laying there in the bed. Of course, he's cuffed and shackled to the bed, got leg irons on and everything. There's 3 guards in the ICU unit in his room, 24/7. You know, he smiled, looked at me, and he goes, "You still have your hair." I said, "Yeah, bro, good to see you, man." You know, and we talked about life and such, and family and everything. It would have been good to see a man with that talent that I know, his artistic talent, you know, in as a free man. Even as a kid, he was an excellent artist. We had a motorcycle, or I thought it was a black and white photograph at first when I was young, on the wall, on the door. It used to be his room. And my dad kept it up there. He made it in drafting class in junior high school. Now, mind you, he's 9 years older than me. And it was of a Honda, it was done in pencil, a Honda 350 motorcycle. And then one day I realized it was a drawing. And I said, "Dad, who drew that?" He goes, "Well, look at the name on the lower right-hand side." I couldn't make out the handwriting. He goes, "Your brother drew that when he was 13. Wow. So he was blessed with that talent. As far as writing, he could read and write before, but just very basics. He missed a lot of school, ditched and such. Learned that through the Bible. Was he a religious man? No. But in order for him to maintain what sanity he had under the conditions that were given to him, he did meditation, yoga, did study Christianity, he studied Judaism, he studied Buddhism and such. And he kind of leaned more on the meditation and yoga, became a vegan, laid off the drugs and such. Some guy I just watched a video, he said my brother was getting drugs while he was in Florence ADX. Not so. No. The other thing I noticed my brother had done to him at the hospital before. When? I don't know. I didn't ask him when he had it done. The lightning bolts he used to have on his neck. He had those for as long as I can remember. They were gone. both sides. They were gone. And I couldn't whisper them. The guards are right there. So I just thought I'd ask him. I go, so what's your opinion about the AB? And he just kind of looked at me and shook his head. And he goes, that was then, this is now. I'm done. I was there for them. They weren't there for me. If there's any ABs out there catch this video and such, huh? That's the truth. But my brother did explain to me one thing about the Aryan Brotherhood. Not really the Brotherhood, but the word Aryan. He says it's really, he did studying on it and research. It's not about race. It's about superiority. Mental, physical, spiritual. Your intellect. You try to keep yourself superior and try to get along with others, but if challenged, you pull your resources, whether it be in numbers or let it be physical or violent. That kind of made sense. My message to Pete Early in that media that did the world's most evil, keyword evil. It's a series. They have a bunch of inmates on there and such, prisoners. Once again, media hype. You know, they got to play it up. They got to stretch the truth. And I, for one, experienced a lot of the truth. You know, at age 17, I went with my father to go visit my brother up in San Quentin. So he was 20, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3. No, 15. I was 15, that's right. And it was my turn to talk to my brother, and he had him all shackled down. He only had one hand free, even though he was in this itty bitty cage with the window and the phone right there. And my dad talked to him for a while, and I'm kind of looking at him, making faces and all that. But he wasn't smiling at me. Usually he'd start laughing or something. And then he kind of pointed at me and said something to my father. So my dad kind of looked over his shoulder, and he goes, your turn. So I sat down. I go, hey, bro, how you doing? And he goes, look at me. So I'm looking at him. And he punched the glass pretty damn hard with his free hand. I said, damn it, look at me. So he had my undivided attention. I said, okay, bro. He said, I don't want to see you in here. Ever. If I ever see you in here, you'll wish you never knew me. I won't show you no mercy whatsoever. No favoritism, nothing. This is not for you. He punched the glass again. He goes, do you understand? And I said, yes, I do, Tom. My dad's like, what is he saying? I kind of look back. I go, oh. Yeah. So we talked for a while and all that. I wouldn't tell my dad what he said, but on the way home, driving back to Long Beach, California from the Bay Area, my dad finally said, come on, son, what did Tom tell you back up there? I told him. He started chuckling, and he goes, I guess your brother's not so dumb after all. You know. The other thing my brother told me, he goes, you know what's really scary about this place? I go, no, what is that? I go, the violence, this, that, and the other. He goes, no, the most terrifying thing about this place. What's that? He says, after a while you get used to it. This is your second home. That's what he told me.